So a while back, I decided to do a Q&A, and even though I'm a small channel, I still got some questions. So let's go through them. How do we reconcile Christ's mandate to love all against the increasingly evident need to segregate society to some extent? This whole melting pot culture of everyone can get along is just not working. Thanks for the great content. Love the channel. Well, I wonder if Jesus would say those same things today. But there is this thing called Christian nationalism, and the two kind of fit together nicely, which is why it's an ideology in the first place. I think nations have a spiritual duty, if you want to say it that way, or a moral duty to keep the identity of its nation relatively consistent. This has been one of the biggest consequences of liberalism. This idea that we're all the same, that all cultures can coexist with one another, that being exposed to other cultures is an enriching thing, or having other cultures and massive populations invade your country is actually a good thing. But as you say, the big experiment has failed. I think the best way to follow Christ's mandate to love all is to tell those people, hey, I love you, but you got to stay over there. Because if you come over here, I won't be capable of loving you anymore, and in fact, are going to develop a pretty serious hatred for you. So I think that's the answer. You have to set up a sustainable environment for Christian love. To quote Pantera, be yourself, by yourself, stay away from me. If you could implement one law or policy in America that wouldn't change for 100 years, guaranteed, what would it be? If you're not white, male, or own property, you're not allowed to vote. And then we have an amendment added to that which would prohibit anyone outside of those requirements for running for office as well. In a time of perpetual transience and rootlessness, is there a way to truly stand for something permanent? We always hear reject modernity, embrace tradition, but here we are on YouTube. Short of going Amish, we have to participate in atomized modernity in order to potentially reach an audience, putting ourselves at further risk of blackpilling into obsolescence. For the first part of this question, I think in the most practical sense, it would be to have kids. It's almost a way for a part of you to be immortal. These values that you spent years refining and honing and defining will live on past your life and hopefully be embodied in your child. Whenever I see conservatives whose kids have completely gone off the rails, I think, man, what a failure. It's the ultimate failure. Now, on to the second part of this question. I don't know if you guys know who Iris Chang is, but she wrote the definitive book on the rape of Nanking, and she was enormously blackpilled. She spent her life researching one of the most brutal genocides that ever happened, and then faced tremendous opposition for exposing the truth. And she went kind of crazy through the whole process. She became increasingly paranoid and fearful, and eventually unable to live her life. And the doctors made it worse by medicating her into a vegetable, which she hated even more than the paranoia, and she ended up killing herself. But I want to read you a couple letters that she wrote her mother in the years and months leading up to her death, and this kind of deals with the first part of the question as well. It's just that I believe that I have some power to shape my destiny, and I want Christopher, that's her son, to have in his mother a strong role model that is her own individual, impervious to the whims of others. I cannot teach Christopher to be an intellectual and a socially responsible person unless I demonstrate to him through my actions that I myself am such a person. I want to teach Christopher that it is far better to belong to the critical minority than the unquestioning majority. I want to teach him the ability to think independently, to evaluate ideas and information on his own without the official sanction of the authorities, and if possible, to create. These qualities are not universally popular in our society. My tendency to stand alone, apart from the crowd, has caused me a great pain and suffering throughout my life, but in the end, I am stronger and better because of it. And here was her final letter to her mom. Dear Mom, Dad, Mike, and Brett, for the last few weeks, I have been struggling with my decision as to whether I should live or die. As I mentioned to Brett, When you believe you have a future, you think in terms of generations and years. When you do not, you just live by the day. You live not just by the day, but by the minute. You don't want someone who will live out the rest of her days as a mere shell of her former self. I considered running away, but I will never be able to escape from myself and my own thoughts. I'm doing this because I'm too weak to withstand the years of pain and agony ahead. Each breath is becoming difficult for me to take. The anxiety can be compared to drowning in an open sea. I know that my actions will transfer some of this pain to others, indeed, those who love me the most. Please forgive me, because I cannot forgive myself. Now, it's pretty heavy stuff, right? And I think it serves as a warning to those of us who get into this routine of looking and searching for the darkest stuff that humanity has to offer. It's like a dark tunnel that has all the answers, but it strips you of your innocence the longer you're in it, and it can taint you and bring out the worst in you. Before Jordan Peterson jumped the shark, he really did have some good thoughts. Here's one of them. The path to enlightenment and wisdom is seldom trod upon, because if it was all a matter of following your bliss and what made you happy, everyone in the world would be a paragon of wisdom. But it's not that at all. It's a matter of facing the things that you least want to face. The gateway to wisdom and the gateway to personality, which is exactly the same thing, is precisely through that portal that you do not want to climb through. And so it's a balance, right? We need social media to stay alive as a movement, and yet it corrupts us in a way. The ideas and incredible people I've found on the internet have shaped my beliefs into what they are now, and yet that same stupid internet exposes me to unbelievable amounts of sadness and the raw materials for black pills. So be careful out there, everybody. Okay, moving on. What was the most recent TV show or movie that wasn't obviously propagandizing the masses towards progressivism? I would have to say it's the first John Wick movie. I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty based. He's a white guy. He marries a white woman. He has a cute little dog. It's not a pit bull yet. All of it is taken away, and so he fights for the things that he used to love and wanted to protect. It's all about guns. It's all about skills and practice and having something you're good at. And the Continental Hotel is sort of like a rival castle, to use Juvenalian terms. And so there's elite theory in there too. The movie is incredibly based, so that's why I'm picking it. Now, the John Wick movies get more progressive as they go on, but the first one is pretty based. What's your advice for men interested in finding a wife in today's romance scene? Good freaking luck. I don't recommend anyone marries until the divorce laws change. Marriage just doesn't make sense anymore, and it has a lot of problems. And I may not even be the best person to answer this. I have a lot of issues with women, but as far as I can tell, it's almost all justified. Women are insane now. I would say you need to find a woman who's on the same page as you when it comes to several issues. She needs to want to be married. She needs to agree with you on political issues, or at least be sympathetic to them and willing to change her mind. And also, you need to find out who her friends are and meet them and get the warm and fuzzies from them. Because the moment you get in a fight, she's going to go straight to them, and you need to know who they are and what kind of advice they're going to give her. Just remember, you are never arguing with just her, you are arguing with her friend group. Another thing, to quote Red Hawk, men in our society are treated like defective women who need fixed. So if you find yourself talking to a woman who kind of talks to you that way, you need to run. And speaking of Red Hawk, I would just suggest going over to his channel because he can give better advice on this stuff than I can. Just don't be a simp towards women. That's the biggest thing. In your opinion, is it better to raise livestock or grow vegetables? Well, if you're wanting to slonk eggs every day, I guess livestock. Get some chickens and you're set. I mean, the price of eggs now are insane, and they could be free. So there's a positive. I think most people are going to be able to do vegetables and gardening more easily than have livestock, so I'll recommend that. What do you like to do in your spare time? Also, who is your biggest inspiration in this community? I'm a big guitar guy. I have a bunch and I really enjoy playing. I have also shown my motorcycle on here and I love riding. I have a nice camera and I enjoy taking photographs, but this is kind of turning into my Tinder profile, so I'm going to stop right here. As far as my biggest inspiration, I'd say it's Academic Agent. I know he plays the heel exceptionally well, and sometimes I disagree with him, but his core ideas are some of the most powerful ideas I've seen, and I owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude for getting me out of my normie ways. I know a lot of people watch Sargon and then they saw AA through him, but I was the opposite. I watched him, like, he was the very first guy I ever watched, and I discovered the whole dissident right after that. For like 4 months, all I did was watch his videos every single day and just become more and more based and watch my old worldview just disintegrate. So, love him or hate him, he's the one guy in this scene who I'm most inspired and influenced by. Anyways, that's all the questions I got. So, if you like this video and type of content I'm making, consider giving this video a like and maybe subscribing. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.